Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. Welcome in to Podup with Matthews in the morning, coming to you from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I am Seth Harpe, host of the Harp on Sports podcast, harponsports.com. Let's see here. Guy joined me today. I can't wait to do this because this guy knows more about college football than anybody I've ever met. He's going to be joining us from the Titan MRI hotline. Titan MRI. We have a question on the Titan MRI text line as well. It's already starting here. Titan MRI hotline. We welcome in Brent Beaird. Of course, you know Brent, sports writer since the early 90s, part of the 2018 college football mock playoff selection exercise, Grapevine, Texas. Heisman Trophy voter. He voted for me this year, I heard. Sports segments all over the South. I labeled him the king of the SEC when he was on my show for all of those years. Brent Beaird, welcome, man. We got some stuff to talk about today. Good to talk to you again, my friend.
Well, Seth, it's always great to be on with you. And for our audience, Seth Harpe's one of the most knowledgeable people I know in radio and television. And it's always an honor to be on with him. And I've done radio with Seth for years. As a matter of fact, my twin brother who does radio up in the Huntsville area mentioned this last night. And as he said, Seth and I were on the same station together a lifetime ago, right, Seth?
That was hold on here. That was 17 years ago, and there was no gray hair then, Brett. There is now. There is now, probably more than there should be. All right. How about this? Let's start with this because this is big news. This is big news. Florida State, Coach Mike Norvell gets an extension. Gets a big bump in pay. If these numbers are right, $8 million a year through 2029. So what is that? 848 or 648, 756, right around that neighborhood. He becomes the second highest paid coach in the ACC behind Dabo Swinney. So here we go, Brent. Mike Norvell now gets in as he heads into year 4. In Tallahassee, right? Is this year 4 for him in Tallahassee? He gets this gigantic bump in pay and now makes more money than any football coach in this state. Let's start off with this. What do you think it means, especially with Deion Sanders, Brett? All the talk that Deion Sanders could be coming back to Tallahassee. What's it mean to you that Norvell now has $8 million a year and is paid through the rest of the decade in Tallahassee?
Well, I think it's evidence of the progress that they have made at Florida State, and make no mistake about it, Florida State will be a top 10 team, right, Seth? And every magazine that comes out, preseason and the polls, may even be top 5, frankly. So now my source in Tallahassee texted me yesterday, and he added to this, and he's making $50,000 a year more than Mario Cristobal. So he wanted to get that in, Seth, as a little jab at the Canes. But and look, they're going to be loaded this year. And the one of the games that I'm really looking forward to, FSU, LSU, Sunday night of Labor Day weekend. 2 top 10 teams that will be going at it. 7 come back on offense, 9 come back on defense. So, frankly, what you're seeing here is stability within the Florida State program, and sometimes you get paid for expectations as much as you do for what you've done, but tremendous reward for Mike Norvell, and he has earned that after last year.
Don't you and I tried to nail this pelt to the wall for a couple of months now, that we talk about Florida and Billy Napier and the rebuild that he is facing. I've said this for months now. Mike Norvell at Florida State is what a rebuild realistically looks like. It's what it realistically looks like, because they were in bad shape when he took over. And in year one, they win. Well, it was COVID year, but they win 2 games, 3 games. Year 2, he was on the cusp of a bowl. Florida knocks him off in the swamp. In year 3, it goes in the other direction. He wins almost double-digit games, right? He has a big win, and gets to a big, not a big bowl game, but a significant bowl game from where they were. And to me, his arc, everybody says that you have to earn this. You have to earn your way back. Well, he did. And
yes,
the state has always been known, going back to Jimbo Fisher, 6-7 years ago, Brent, Florida State's been known as being cheap. They're the monopoly guy. They don't want to pay money. They don't want to build facilities. They've just been known as this cheap entity. And the fact that they're paying him this, now they don't have to worry about not that it was going to happen, but now they don't have to worry about if Jim Harbaugh leaves for the NFL, like a Michigan swooping in and taking.
Well, and the way they've done it is several layers here. They rebuilt their offensive line, which honestly was one of the worst in the ACC. They've got now in Jordan Travis, one of the better quarterbacks, and frankly, I'm not saying he'll win it, but could be a Heisman candidate as the year goes along. Norvell has done a really good job in bringing in transfers that have filled the gaps for them. But something that Seth said that is very important, and we have seen this, they are much better off in Tallahassee right now financially than they were before. They just didn't have the money that they've got now that's come through over the last few years. And they also, and we mentioned this a few weeks ago, just broke ground a few days ago on building a new football facility. So it's going hand in hand. They've done it on the field, but just as importantly, they've done it financially through their boosters, through their facilities. And Seth, all these things have come together at one time, haven't they?
Yeah, and good for them. It's one of these things. I know Gator fans, want Florida State to go 0-12 every year, but it's great for college football.
It is.
It's great for college football. It's great for the state of Florida when it comes to college football, when the big 3 are really good. Speaking of Gator fans, quick reminder, tomorrow's the day. Steve Spurrier Way going to be unveiled at Celebration Point, 5:30 p.m. on the Promenade in front of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Make sure you head out there and check out the HBC as he gets a road named after him. So there we go. So the big money in for Mike Norvell, $8 million a year. He's going to get paid per season through the course of the decade. Brett, let's work East Coast to West Coast. Texas and Oklahoma. We thought that there may be a shot that Texas and Oklahoma could be in the SEC 12 months from now. Now it looks like that may be a little bit tougher task, huh?
I'm not sure this is over. Now, you understand TV as well as anybody I know in the media, and a lot of this is you've got 2 competing networks here with ESPN and Fox. Now, I understand how the Big 12 wants to get every dollar out of Oklahoma and Texas that they can, but Seth, at some point, the Big 12 knows they're leaving. Texas, Oklahoma really want to go ahead and get on with it. So I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I've heard from several people in the media that have said, I'm just not sure that this is going to happen, and that these networks and these conferences end up making some kind of a deal in the next few months for this to actually happen maybe a year earlier than we think it will, maybe in 2024. So, and it may not saying that it will, but in our dealings with television, Seth, haven't we seen when both sides eventually kind of wear down and they want something, they can eventually get it done?
Well, it's almost like what you see at the NBA trade deadline or any trade deadline.
Yeah.
You can make more money and get more picks, or you can just let the season end and you get nothing out of it. So the Big 12, yeah, I mean, you're talking, they got to make a decision. Do they want to stick it to Texas and Oklahoma, or do they want an extra $20 million? So, or around in that neighborhood, right? Brett, for some reason, money wins 9 times out of 10. And when it doesn't win, it means because the other person has no idea what they're doing. So there we go on that front, at least with Oklahoma and Texas. You already see it, right? Because what do we have? Cincinnati, UCF, BYU, and Houston, right? All joined the Big 12 now. They're all in the Big 12 now. So we're going to have what? Is next year going to be? Is it going to be a 16-team conference next year?
Yeah,
no, it'll be a
they've got to. Yeah, great point. They've got to deal with all that next year. But Seth, at some point, as one media member explained to me, at some point, don't you want to get on to be what you're going to be, and just deal with it? And look, yes, as Seth said, if people haven't heard this, you've got a very interesting situation with the BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and Central Florida. Now, none of that makes sense as far as geography is concerned. What we learned years ago in conference expansion, geography has nothing to do with this at this point, i.e., Southern Cal and UCLA going to the Big Ten. So people are going to be surprised and when they're reading the preseason magazines about what July or August, Seth, and they see how much this Big 12 has changed and how much it's going to change over the next few years.
It's funny. It's been 120 years since those two Wright brothers invented that thing called an aeroplane. And, it kind of, you're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do for travel? Oh, come on. And I think it's funny. I always think it's funny when conferences talk about, or we talk about teams playing and what travel's going to be.
Yes.
I flew out to LA this year for Notre Dame USC, and that was a 5-hour flight. Okay.
Sure.
To fly to Dallas from Jacksonville, it's a 2.5-hour flight. A bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds aren't going to be able to handle an extra 120 minutes on a plane. Come on, it's ridiculous. Speaking of moving, the Pac-12, we got some movement going on there. And if you're getting ready to move, how you like this for a segue? Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Doreen Weeby, realtor. Coldwell Banker MM Parrish will provide you with fast, friendly, and reliable service. Call her today, 352-562-1411. That's 352-562-1411 to help you find your dream home and have your dreams come true. Okay, it's one of those weird things, and I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe it's like real estate, but I like when conferences realign, just because we get new matchups and new teams. And look, I'm a sucker for some old school things as well. I love old school rivalries. But if this is going to happen, now I don't know if it's going to happen with Kevin Warren, right? The commissioner of the Big Ten now leaving to run the Chicago Bears. If USC and UCLA are still headed to the Big Ten, but the Pac-12 sniffing around one way or another, they're talking about adding San Diego State. Why is that important? Because that's the San Diego LA TV market.
Yes.
USC and UCLA are leaving. That means LA, 9 million people in terms of TV deals, in terms of metro, in terms of eyeballs, in terms of consumption of your product. 9 million are going to the Big Ten. So you need those 9 million back. San Diego State comes into the fold. And then the other one that is now being talked about, Brent, SMU. And again, I try to explain this to people all the time. It's not about the quality of the football program. It's not the quality about the basketball program. It's about the number of people that live in that media market. SMU is where? It's in Dallas, which is market 6. So, or is it market 7? It's a top 7 market. So, if USC and UCLA leave, this is going to sound weird, Brent, and go to the Big Ten, then by adding SMU and adding San Diego State, the Pac-12 actually becomes more valuable in terms of TV money.
Well, and sometimes when we look at that, it just looks really odd. But the presidents make decisions on this, and don't think for a minute that the presidents aren't looking at schools that can bring them value from the TV market. As Seth said, that is one of the top priorities for the presidents and the chancellors who make these decisions. Now, what the Pac-12 is paying for now is a lot of poor management over the years. George Kliavkoff, the new commissioner, or relatively new, is trying to pick up the pieces here with the Pac-12, and they have really paid the through the nose, frankly, for bad management, or as much as anything else, they haven't been as forward thinking as you would think that they would be in California, but that has not happened. So the thing they're trying to do is obviously get a better television deal than what they have had. They're the only major conference that's yet to renew its media rights deal. And another thing that's going to be very interesting here, and Seth, I know you've seen this coming for a while too, this Pac-12 deal, and I'll be brief about this, but this is important, that it's going to be very heavy on digital streaming services. And Seth, we would have never seen this 10, 20, 30 years ago, but we're in a different age now, are we not? That these deals with these conferences and televisions and media rights are going to be extremely increased by what we've got with digital streaming. Now, a lot of folks may not be into that much, but it's here and it's not going away. And Seth, it's a very important part of all these packages.
Oh, gee, oh my gosh. Look what, I mean, the NFL gave away their Thursday night on TV
Yes.
to go to Amazon because of the money involved.
Absolutely.
Brett, really, very quick sidebar here. I've been begging for this. And I know Scott Strickland listens to this podcast. I know Greg Sankey listens to this podcast. Gentlemen, would you please give us an SEC Monday Night Football game? Please, please. Look, everybody, you either get the NFL on Monday night or you get Bupkis. So if we could have could you imagine the atmosphere in the Swamp, Brett, if you had LSU Florida Monday Night Football?
It would be off the charts, and so would the television ratings.
Yes, and the money, because keeping up with, because you have to keep up with the Big Ten now in terms of money, and the money's eventually going to matter. When you're talking about $5 or $6 million a year, because when the Big Ten added Maryland and Rutgers, they added New York City, Baltimore, and Washington. Again, it's not about the quality of the program. It's about TV money and being able to stick, as you say, digital assets in these big TV markets, big populous markets. So all this money rolling in, I was sitting there thinking about that about a month ago. I'm like, how cool would it be? Because we have, you have NFL Sunday afternoon. It's like, well, okay, well, here's CBS, here's Fox going back and forth. I would love to see a Monday night. I just think what the pageantry would be. While Monday night's kind of like the leftover game in the NFL, I just think what it would be to have like a 6 p.m. kickoff start every Monday night for, like I said, LSU, Florida, or you could
Sure.
to Auburn. I mean, go up and down the list when it comes to this. What one can dream, but if you want to up the ante, think about how much a TV contract, something like that, would be worth on something like NBC that's going up against Monday Night Football on ESPN. And it may even beat it in the ratings. Love to see it. All right. Let's a couple more things here. Again, Brent Beaird with us here on Podup with Matthews in the morning. I am Seth Harpe. He's joining us via the Titan MRI hotline. I know you have some questions. Kyle Crooks is going to be swinging in here. We're going to talk college basketball with Kyle Crooks coming up here 20 minutes from now. I know a lot of people are on their therapist's couch this morning after what Nate Oates in Alabama did to the Gators last night in basketball. And we're going to get to that coming up here with Kyle Crooks a little over 15 minutes from now. Well, I got Brett here. A couple more things, college football wise. Alabama's going to have a couple new coordinators, right? Bill O'Brien gone. Tommy Rees, a guy that I know from the time at Notre Dame, comes in. Tommy Rees. The questions on Tommy Rees is he too reliable on his tight ends? Well, Notre Dame is not what they used to be, Brett, but what they are is tight end you. They really are.
Yes.
I mean, when
Sure.
Michael Mayer enters the NFL, it's going to be 5 NFL starting tight ends come from Notre Dame in the league. So they produce tight ends like crazy. And the one knock on Tommy Rees was that he was too dependent on the tight end at all times. So let's get to this first. I mean, that program maybe better than anybody. What's it going to mean to the Alabama faithful that Tommy Rees is now their offensive coordinator?
Well, these two hires, and I'm going to throw Kevin Steele in there too, who comes from Miami. And by the way, Miami did replace him very quickly. That folks may or may not have heard. And I think that's very important for the Canes. They replaced him with Lance Guidry from Tulane and Willie Fritz staff. And Tulane for a Power 5 team is really good, or a Power 5 team, excuse me. But they are. But the significance of these hires for Alabama is they want to re-establish the line of scrimmage. One thing Alabama has done over the last few years, and this happened very slowly, but when it's 3rd and 4th and short, they're having to throw the ball. And the thing they want to do is they want to go back to being able to retool their offensive line. The offensive line will be better. They've got a different quarterback this year. Bryce Young obviously is going to NFL. So you bring in Tommy Rees to help you, just as Seth said a few minutes ago, to use more of your running backs and your tight ends to be able to have more of a ball control type offense. It's not that they're giving up the passing game and they're going back to 2008 or 2009 with Mark Ingram and Glenn Coffey and so forth. That's not what's going to happen. But that's what they really want to do, is to kind of get more pressure on the quarterback, be able to run the ball. And with Kevin Steele coming from Miami, that's what they're hoping to do defensively. One thing they didn't do, in other words, if you remember the Alabama-Tennessee game last year, when Hendon Hooker threw the ball on Alabama secondary the entire game, instead of Alabama trying to put pressure on the quarterback, they tried to cover, just could not cover the Tennessee wide receivers. They want to change some of that this year, Seth, get more pressure on the quarterback and be able to close some of those gaps like Auburn ran for over 300 yards for them, and to keep that from happening. So both these hires surprised some people, but that's some of the logic coming from Alabama as to why they did it.
Speaking of coordinators, this guy's been a thorn in the Gators side as of late. Todd Monken. Should he stay or should he go? To me, I used to do this when I was a kid living in Indiana. I had the tri-state area, and to find the right spot, you could lay down and be in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio at the same time. Does he stay? Does he go? What's the latest with Mr. Monken? I know Jeff Monken is pretty successful. Was it Big Bro or Little Bro up at Army, who used to cover at Georgia Southern? So what's going on with Todd?
Well, Todd has been interviewing for different NFL teams. People may forget that he's been in the NFL before, and that was one of the reasons for his being hired at Georgia. But he's interviewed this week with the Ravens. He's already interviewed with Tampa Bay. So he's looking around, obviously, but to possibly go back to the NFL. And look, his success as of late is one of the reasons Georgia's done so well. And one thing that Kirby Smart's done is he's given Todd Monken more freedom with that offense, and it really came in handy this year. Now, Seth, Georgia at the tight end position and running back position basically did it by committee. They didn't have the bell cow they normally have, but to me, that's more credit for Monken and what he did. That will be a real loss if he goes to the NFL. But I can tell you this, if he stays, he will be rewarded with a contract. And Seth, we thought we'd never see this years ago, but this is coming now. We're going to have coordinators who are going to be making $2 and $3 million in the next few months. That's amazing, is it not, Seth, that a coordinator now is going to be making money what coaches basically used to make. It's a different day.
Yeah, when Nick Saban left Michigan State for LSU, Brett, he signed a 4-year, $6 million deal. $1.5 million a year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's 24 years ago, 23 years ago.
Yes, yes.
If Monken does leave, for the sake of drama, and I love drama, I love me some drama. If Monken does leave for the NFL, can we please get Dan Mullen as the offensive coordinator in Georgia, please?
Well, it's funny you said that because there were a lot of people thought that he might be going to Alabama. But at that time, he said he was not interested, that he would rather stay in television. And frankly, to Dan's credit, he did a nice job with TV this year as an analyst and also in the studio. But, Seth, you know, like I do, coaches want to coach. And if that is still something that he's got and the fire still burns pretty hot for that, he may be out a year or two, but it won't be long until he's back.
He's very good at TV. Very good at TV. But you're right. I can't think of too many guys that, I mean, that are still, I mean, certain guys in basketball like Seth Greenberg have kind of gone on, but even Matt Brown was at the network for what, 6 years? And then he's like, you got to get back into it. Dan Mullen will coach again soon. But you know, as long as that check is still rolling in from Gainesville, this or that. That was always the key thing, right? I always talked about that with John Gruden when Tennessee fans thought they were going to get John Gruden as their head coach. Like, why on earth would he leave Monday Night Football booth at $8 million a year? Why would he leave the Monday Night Football at $8 million a year to go coach for you for $6 million? And then the Raiders came along and offered him 10, and there's your answer because it pays.
That's right. Absolutely.
Let's see here. I guess this segment we're wrapping up here, at least on this segment. I guess where we go from here, it's been kind of a crazy off season, but spring ball is starting. Brett, just give me 2 or 3 things that you're watching as spring ball gets ready to start across the board in the SEC.
I think absolutely. I think one thing that's going to be strange at Mississippi State after the unfortunate death of Mike Leach, Zach Arnett, the defense coordinator, is the new head coach. He has hired a guy named Kevin Barbay as the offensive coordinator. And the reason that's significant is they're going to actually run the ball more than they did with Mike Leach. Mike Leach used the running backs in the air raid offense more as wide receivers, frankly, than running backs. So that's something that's going to be pretty different with Mississippi State. Now, Missouri's going to have an interesting spring at quarterback because Brady Cook had shoulder surgery, and he's going to be out. And if folks miss this, Jake Garcia, why is that name familiar? Well, it's coming from Miami. The Miami quarterback is committed now and is going to be at Missouri. So he's going to be involved in spring with their freshman Sam Horn, who they really like and who they've been very impressed with. And what about Ole Miss, Seth, with 3 quarterbacks as they love to go to that transfer portal, Lane Kiffin does, Jackson Dart, Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State, and Walker Howard from LSU. So that's going to be as interesting of a battle as anything. And I've got, and you and I could talk for another hour, but I'll suffice with this note. For South Carolina, I give Matt Hayes good credit for this from Saturday Down South. This is incredible. One of the reasons South Carolina has been so successful is forcing turnovers. Now, this is amazing. In the 2 years under Shane Beamer, they have forced 47 turnovers. They're saying, Seth, you and I have been covering this game for a long time. If you force turnovers, good things happen. And I can tell you right now, there are few schools, and they've recently gotten Nicholas Harbor, a 5-star kid over Oregon and Maryland, number one athlete in the country, runs a 10.28 also. But one of the most excited fan bases in the SEC is South Carolina. And if they continue their track of, it's going to be a very interesting team to keep an eye on. I'm not saying they're going to win the East or anything like that, but, and I'm curious if you've seen this too, Seth, but the optimism and the interest in South Carolina over the last couple of years under Beamer has grown incredibly.
Yeah, there's talk that he could end up in Michigan if Harbaugh would have. That's who Michigan was going to target if Harbaugh left for the NFL, and they'd have got him. So that's amazing. So you're not quite sold on the South Carolina Ole Miss SEC title game yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But that's good. Now the thing with Ole Miss is going to be how soon can they get a defense, and that's why they got Pete Golding from Alabama, who will have more freedom than he did in Tuscaloosa to make the calls on defense. So not sold on it yet, but both those teams should have both very interesting football seasons.
Brent Beaird with us here on Podup with Matthews in the morning, courtesy of the Titan MRI hotline. As we move on here, it's Super Bowl week. We got a lot more that we're going to get to. I know Kyle Crooks is waiting in the wings, and we saved a lot of the basketball, whatever you want to call that snuff film that we saw in Tuscaloosa last night, as the Gators just got boat raced out of the gym. So I know Kyle and I are going to get into that and talk about that. Brent, as always, it's been too long. It's great talking to you again, and as always, appreciate getting to talk some SEC and college football with you, buddy.
Seth, great job, my friend. Good to talk to you, and thanks for helping us. And I hope everybody has a great Super Bowl week.
All right, good stuff, Brent Beaird. I know Kyle Crooks is waiting in the wings, and we move forward into a little college basketball. Let's look at what the Gators did last night, where they go from here, and a couple of other things. Football-wise, with Mike Norvell getting a new deal at Florida State as we move forward here. Podup with Matthews in the morning. I call this the Podup with Matthews and Freddie Wiebe podcasting and radio network.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe, Realtor Caldwell Banker, M.M. Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Calling Gator Nation. You're invited to be part of Gator history on Friday, February 10th for the official dedication of Steve Spurrier Way at Celebration Point Promenade in front of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Lots of dignitaries and press will be on hand to witness this historic event. And it's open to all who bleed orange and blue. It's the grand unveiling of Steve Spurrier Way. It's all happening Friday, February 10th from 5:30 to 6:15 at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point.
Seth Harpe from Harp on Sports. Kyle Crooks, the voice of Gators sports, Gators women's basketball, Gators softball, which starts this Friday on ESPN 98.1 FM 850 AM WRUF. You've got BU, you got BC, you've got Illinois State, and you got USF. 4 softball games in the span of 36 hours. So it's going to be a blast. You're all 4 of those games on ESPN Gainesville. And I'm going, why there won't be any mistakes? Because I'm training all the students on running the games.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It'll be a good one. Really quick, this day in sports history as I transition in with Kyle here, brought to you by Comfort Temp. At Comfort Temp, comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Beat the summer heat and sometimes, I guess, what would you say, the winter chill. Schedule your air conditioners tune up today. Keeping you chill and the Florida heat far away. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. 352-376-2366. 31 years ago, Magic Johnson returned to the court, and this had something to do with the Gators. 31 years ago, Magic Johnson returned to the court in the All-Star game after less than 4 months prior testing positive for HIV. He lit up the East as the West won. Magic won the MVP, scored 25 points, hit like 7 threes. It was a monster night. Just like it was a monster night for the Crimson Tide last night against the Florida Gators. That was a boat race. That was a snuff film. And the last 4 minutes of that game, 3 minutes of that game, Kyle, it reminded me of, it felt like I was eating mild wings or watching somebody eat a hot dog with ketchup on it. It was just ugly and embarrassing. And sometimes my old man was a coach for 30 years, and he used to say this. He goes, man, that was a rack, a royal, kicking. And Alabama is a Final Four caliber team. Alabama may win the national championship, but just like Mike Norvell is showing you how a rebuild works in college football, a realistic one at Florida State, but Nate Oates has done at Alabama as a prime example of you can win and be successful in a football school, Kyle, in basketball.
Yeah, and he recently gets a contract extension. They're going to have a new arena there in Alabama too. So you have to think that the recruiting is not going to stop the talent. I mean, Brandon Miller, he's probably going to be the number 3 pick in the NBA draft. I mean, he's that good. He'll probably be the first college player taken in this coming NBA draft. I mean, they hit 9 threes in the first half. They hit 15 threes for the game. They're not going to beat one of the best teams in all of college basketball when they hit 15 threes. Look, Florida's got to find some offensive identity maybe outside of Colin Castleton. Colin was good last night. I think that's the one positive thing. 29 points, 10 rebounds, 9 of 18 from the floor, got to the free throw line. They have to find some sort of identity outside of him. And they just can't hit outside shots. They can't hit open shots right now. They're plagued with slow starts. Credit to them in the second half, Seth. They're down, 20 plus points. It might have been like 29 points at the half. And they cut it to 17 in the second half. They outscored Alabama in the second half. They put up 46 points in the second half. Now, granted, the final 4 minutes, you're looking at walk-ons, you're looking at players that aren't going to play a whole lot. So there's a little bit more to that. But this is a critical stretch, Seth, because you got through the 4, you got the 1. You got the 1 of the 4, which was a 4-game stretch, which is the toughest in college basketball, toughest in Florida basketball history. You got the 1 at home against Tennessee. Now, it doesn't hold up as much because of what happened last night. It's not as impactful because it's going to hurt their net ranking and the fact that Vanderbilt beat Tennessee last night, and Vanderbilt comes to town here in Gainesville. But that was a big resume win. You got 7 games left. You probably got to win 5 of them, I would say. You probably got to go 5-2. You got to win a couple games in the SEC tournament to say, okay, I think we have a really legitimate shot to make the NCAA tournament. Right now, they're in the next 4 out after yesterday being in the first 4 out. I think Joe Lenardi said he has them around like 73 overall ranking right now. So that'd put them as the 5th team out of the NCAA tournament. You got to win 5 of the next 7. You got to go on a streak here. And The way to do that is to find some other players to step up. Kwesi Reeves has not had a good year. Myron Jones, while better in SEC play, has not had a great year offensively shooting the basketball. Will Richards got to play better. Riley Kugel had a good night last night, but look, there's got to be more players that step up to the plate here, and you got to win your home games. You got to win 5 of the next 7.
It looks like a Venn diagram, right? You can lose, and you can even lose sometimes badly to great teams, but you've got to beat mediocre and poor teams if you're going to do that. And let's face it, you're right. They went 1-3, right? Got boat raced by Kansas State, knock off Tennessee, lose a game against Kentucky where they didn't play very well in last night. Okay, all right. But what the next 2? What, Vandy and Ole Miss?
Yes, got to win.
Both at home?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So look, it's okay if you get beat Alabama. It is. There's no shame in that. The way you got beat, maybe a little bit, but okay. But now you play a Vandy team, and I think it helps Florida that Vandy won against Tennessee. Because they're going to be up here. Yeah, and now they get to come back here. They get to come to Gainesville. I think it does. I think it really it helps Florida. But you got to win those games. If Florida wants to make the tournament, I don't. It's a must win. It's a have to win. No, but they need to win them if they want to have a shot at the tournament. And you can win the next 2, lose at Arkansas. I still, if you look at the games, Florida will be favored this Saturday. I haven't even looked at the spread, but they'll be favored at home against Vandy. They'll be favored at home against Ole Miss. They'll be an underdog on the road. If Florida wins the games they're supposed to win, they're going to be on the cusp, and that Kentucky game at home is going to be everything, at least from that side. So, I look at it, and I was trying to think that the SEC, we talked about this yesterday, could they have 2 Final Four teams? I think that Alabama, I don't know about Tennessee now. No. I know it's a rough stretch, but Kyle, they look like that team that's the 5-12, 4-13 waiting to happen. Yeah. What they look like right now. I don't know. I mean, top to bottom in this conference, where you sit with what you've seen. And I know Kentucky has an immense amount of talent, and Arkansas is starting to play better. But to me, it's Alabama. I put Alabama. I don't know if they're up there with Purdue, but I would not be shocked if they play Purdue at some time in the NCAA tournament in April. Yeah,
I mean, that would have 2 National Player of the Years candidates in that game. I think Kentucky losing the other night, I forget who they lost to. I was watching the game, Arkansas. They lose to Arkansas at home. I think it's going to be key, Seth, in the next 7 games to maybe steal. You have to win maybe one of those 2 out of the Kentucky-Arkansas mix. You're not going to be favored at Arkansas. You're probably not going to be favored at home against Kentucky. In terms of SEC teams that can make a run in the NCAA tournament, I think Tennessee, because they're so good defensively, maybe they weren't last night. I think they could find themselves into a Final Four. They haven't had a whole lot of postseason success, Tennessee basketball under Rick Barnes. So I would say Alabama's the only one right now that I could envision in a Final Four. Look at how this conference, we always talk about how it's just so football dominant, right? But how the last 5 to 7 years, how it's completely transitioned into this really, really, really good basketball conference. It almost happened in the snap of a finger, and how it's really up there with some of the best conferences in college basketball. So credit to the SEC for the balance that it's created, not just on the men's side, but on the women's side. And I want to mention this too, because, I call the women's basketball here at Florida. There's a really good game on Sunday. They've been advertising on ESPN. Yeah. It's 1 versus 3, South Carolina against LSU, Angel Reese, Leah Boston. If you don't watch women's basketball and you want to maybe watch a game, that would be the one. I heard, Seth, tickets are going for there's a ticket going on StubHub for about like a couple grand. That's how hot that ticket is at Colonial Life. And they actually outdraw the men in South Carolina, the women's basketball team. And you got the feud between Dawn Staley and Gino Auriemma. So there's some interesting things happening right now on the women's basketball side of things. There's a really good game on Sunday.
SEC a football conference. Yeah, it's fun. Maybe a women's basketball conference before it's all set. A couple of things here really quick. Podup with Matthews in the morning. I'm Seth Harpe. Of course, you know Kyle. and Kyle Crooks. It brought to you in part by Chris Doring Mortgage. They do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. I wanted to bring this up really, really quick. Oh, by the way, you have some questions for us, Facebook? Fire them away. Facebook Live, Meldon Law. You want to fire up a question, the only official law injury firm partner of the Florida Gators. I have a question for you, and I know we're not in a big NBA market here, but I know you're a Nets fan going back to the New Jersey Nets days with Hoopy and Jason Williams, the bad Jason Williams, not the good one, not the one that was in Gate, but the bad one. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant gone. Gone. You're left with 15,000 first-round draft picks, and your arena's awesome in Brooklyn. I love the arena, Kyle. So I want to give you a couple minutes just to talk. Because I'm euphoric because the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, and I can only imagine this is to the yin to that yang.
This is my misery in sports. I'm a Colts fan too, so this year was miserable too. But look, I was excited as everybody when they got Kyrie Irving initially. They traded away. They had the young engine that could, the surprise of the NBA led by D'Angelo Russell before they ever got Kyrie Irving. They traded everything away. Kyrie wanted to be a Net. It ended miserably in Boston. Look, Kyrie is what he is. It ended miserably in Cleveland. It ended miserably in Boston. He single-handedly, Seth, gutted every single part of this Brooklyn Nets organization because we find out last night Kevin Durant, I don't know if it's official yet, but he's been traded to the Phoenix Suns for 4 unprotected first-round draft picks. I think we got Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges. So any thought this was a championship team? I was going to win an NBA championship, Seth. I grew up in the Jason Kidd era, Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin, Richard Jefferson. I went to a couple of NBA finals. We were blitzed in both. We lost to the Spurs, I think in 6. And then we got swept by the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq in what was just an absolute beatdown in 02 and 03. They went to, so that's like the only success I could think of in the NBA. This was a team that was playing well. Kyrie, after coming back from his suspension after what he had tweeted out, because again, he always has to do something to upset the apple cart. But this team was playing well. Kyrie was playing well. We were going to get Durant back. Durant has had a knee injury, so he hasn't been on the floor. Everything, Cam Thomas has played at an all-star level. The dude's dropped like 40 in the last 3 games. Everything was going well. And then all of a sudden you get the notification after the Gators lose, the Nets lose to Boston by 40 points that Kyrie wants to be traded. And I've put a lot of energy in this team. I was excited about this team. I thought we had a legitimate shot to win a championship. Kyrie drops 24 last night in Dallas. He continues to say ridiculous things about how he gave all of his energy and all of his effort to Brooklyn when he played in 55% of the games. You played in half of the games, and forget about the vaccine stuff. That is what it is. But you had self-inflicted suspensions. You played in half of the games. How did you give everything to the organization? And now we are left to be a shell of ourselves, Seth.
Hey, he made $1 million a game. That's good money.
Oh,
if you can find it.
What a racket, man.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time. It is. You know what you're going to get with him. It's just, it's one of these things that he reminds me of a couple politicians. I'm not going to mention them by name, but insert your least favorite politician there, and that's exactly what he sounds like. That's not true. Of course it's not true. I don't care. The truth used to matter. It doesn't matter anymore. Let's see here. What else do we have? We got a couple other things we're going to fly into here. I know we had a Facebook Live question, and shame on me. Because in all my excitement, I skimmed past it. Okay, here it is. I want to make sure I give credit. Joe writes in, who's had a better first year, Billy Napier or Todd Golden? I think it's too early to tell. But if Todd Golden makes the tournament, Todd Golden. If Todd Golden makes the NIT and wins a couple of games, Todd Golden had a winning record. And both inherited similar situations. So, I mean, down that point, there you go. What Joe write? Kevin Durant to the Suns. Not good for Mr. James. I guess not.
I mean, they're like 13th in the West, right? So I don't know.
D'Angelo Russell trade is good.
Yeah.
Look, when it comes down to it, the winner of the Celtics and Bucks is going to win the NBA title. So, they're not ready yet. They're a year away, Kyle. They're a year away. I was pointing in the wrong direction. They're a year away. Let's see. We got a couple minutes to go. Well, what else do we got, baby? I know you got a couple things probably on your mind. I
wanted to get your thought on Aaron Rodgers. So he's going on this 4-day darkness retreat. I know you've done that probably a couple times in your life there, Seth.
Every day is a darkness retreat for me, Kyle.
I'm thinking more and more he's probably going to stay in Green Bay, and this is a whole dog and pony show that he loves. He's got a $58 million player option. So like, it's ridiculous. And he even said it himself, because he's pretty open about this stuff. People are always talking about where I'm going. I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm going to the Jets. I got a $58 million option to stay at home in Green Bay. Like, I don't think he's going anywhere. Right?
Yeah, you know what? This is what Aaron Rodgers is. Aaron Rodgers is the kid, all right, that tells his parents, well, maybe I'll just run away. Okay. And then you realize, wait a second, I'm 12. Where am I going to live?
Yeah.
Outside, where am I going to live? Under the bridge? And that's what Aaron Rodgers is going to, until you get hungry, until you want that money. And that's just anybody that's going to sign him is going to say, okay, we'll sign you. The Raiders, if they want to sign, okay, well, we'll bring you here. But what's he got left? 2 years, 116 million, something like that on that contract, or whatever it is. Okay, we'll sign you. But that 116 now becomes 120, and okay, that you go from 58 million a year to 40 million a year, and people sit there and say, well, how much money do you need? I don't know anybody that ever took a pay cut for fun, Kyle. You know what I mean? And where he is in his career, and this is just his way of, I know they're kind of tired of him in Green Bay, but you know as well as I do, if he comes and wins another title, then that's all forgiven. The last 5 or 6 years are forgiven. The best thing for him to stay, the best thing for the Packers may be now to move away from him. I think we're kind of there. It's one of those things that for years, it's like, please don't go, man. Oh, we want him to finish here. We want him to finish here. But this is why I had people yesterday get mad at me on here. Because, we're talking about LeBron playing for multiple teams. And Jordan basically played for the same team his whole career. No, he basically didn't. He played for 2 years, right? This whole thing that somebody's career can be tarnished because they play for multiple teams, that's ridiculous, right?
Especially not now.
Joe Montana played for 2 different teams. How soon we forget, right? Jerry Rice's legacy's ruined because he went to the Raiders. Come on, it's ridiculous. I know everybody likes to have their clean little, nice little tiny little career there. Man,
it's a business. Look,
yes.
And I would love to see him with the Jets. Somebody who's from New Jersey. I would love to see how he interacts with the New York media market. I think it would be a dumpster fire in a good way. I just think it would be, and they're a ready-made roster to get to a Super Bowl. If you plug in a guy like that, Aaron Rodgers, I think that would be a whole lot of fun to put him in the same division with Josh Allen. Have those guys play twice a year. I think, like you said, AFC is pretty stacked when it comes to the quarterbacks. And I want to get, because I know we're running on the final few minutes of the show. This will be probably the last time I get to talk to you in a show setting here before Sunday. And I'm just as being a Chiefs fan, what's your level of confidence here as we hit later in the week? We kind of get the idea of what the injury situation is going to be on both sides. Are you confident, or what are you feeling like here going into Sunday?
Well, hold on here. I got my Super Bowl crown.
Oh wow! So I'd say
my crown. This thing is going to be full of blood heavy here, in the span. So how am I feeling? Kyle, I would say right now I am 70-30 that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is going to win the MVP. No, look, the best thing, here's kind of where we get into that. What's best for me? The best thing for the sport is for Patrick Mahomes to win a Super Bowl. It is. It's the best thing, because dynasties draw attention. They do. And if the Chiefs win, now you can start to talk about that D word, and everybody loves debates. Everybody loves to compare. So what do I think? Patrick Mahomes says his ankle feels fine. I feel pretty good. I'm one of these people that when it comes to the Super Bowl, but what are you doing? I'm watching it at my house. I have a big TV over there. What I'm doing. You want to come over and watch it? No.
No, you gotta be by yourself.
No, I don't. Because every time I go somewhere and watch it, it's not one of these things that I need to be buying sports. I'm not that guy. I like talking about commercials and I like those things. But what I can't stand is, hey, what's Steve Spurrier like? No, we're not doing that. No. Hey, what's Steve Russell like? No. We can talk about that tomorrow. They're fantastic, by the way. No, I love them both. But yeah, I fire up my grill. I cook 2 T-bone steaks, and I kind of just drop off into oblivion, as they say, or as Mike Tyson used to say, Bolivia. So I think it's gonna be a fantastic football game, Kyle. If the Eagles win, it would not surprise me one bit. I think this thing is
it's essentially a pick 'em. Look at the spread.
Yeah, I think it's a 1-score game, and don't be surprised if Jalen Hurts touchdown Eagles. They're up 4 with 1:45 to go, and you and I both know Patrick Mahomes has the ball with a chance to win the game under the 2-minute warning. We've seen this script before. It's predictable as predictable can be. So that I think that's where we are.
Absolutely. Well, good luck, man. Good luck on Sunday. Enjoy it.
If the Chiefs win, just remember I am a champion, and
you put a lot into that championship.
And as a wise man once told me, greatness always finds a way.
That's right.
So I don't think I'm such a turd. No, I think it'll be a good football game, and I think it's as simple as flip of a coin.
Well, it's that'll wrap it up, and I'm rooting for you on Sunday. I'm rooting for you because look, I got no love for Philly, so I'd love to see you get a championship. And Seth, great job on the show today. I know you hosted the first half. I know you'll be back tomorrow, correct? So Seth will be back tomorrow. I'll be back at some point next week. You got Gator women's basketball tonight at RUF. You got Florida softball this weekend. So I got a lot of busy travel time and broadcast time. So Seth, great job. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on Podup Matthews in the morning. Big thanks to Phil and Tammy, our producers. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.